Chris and Ben, once inseparable college friends, hadn't crossed paths in a decade. After graduation, Chris pursued a career in finance in bustling New York, while Ben settled into a teaching role in the quiet landscapes of Minnesota. One day, while sifting through old memories, Chris stumbled upon a cherished fishing photo of the two of them. Nostalgia hit, prompting him to reach out to Ben with a suggestion: a fishing trip to relive old times. Ben eagerly agreed, and they decided on the Blue Lakes Nature Reserve in Wisconsin, a place renowned for its excellent fishing and breathtaking scenery. The friends met early on a Saturday morning at the reserve's parking lot. After getting the permits from the ranger's office, they headed to a remote lake known for its trout. The path took them through a thick forest, and they had to walk along a narrow trail, carrying all their fishing gear. As they walked, Chris talked about his stressful job on Wall Street and the endless meetings. Ben shared stories about his students and how he had recently sprained his ankle playing basketball with high schoolers. Finally, they arrived at the lake. Surrounded by tall pine trees, the lake's calm surface reflected the clear sky. It looked like a perfect spot for fishing. Chris and Ben inflated a small rubber boat they had brought and went out onto the water. They cast their lines and waited, enjoying the quiet and fresh air. Hours went by, but they didn't catch any fish. Still, the friends weren't discouraged and kept chatting, remembering old times. Chris talked about possibly retiring early and wanting to change his life. As evening came and the sky darkened, a light breeze began to blow. The friends decided to stay for one more hour, hoping for a bit of luck before the day ended. They steered the boat toward the shore, where tall reeds grew. Suddenly, they heard rustling in the reeds. Chris assumed it was the wind, but Ben noticed that the sound was too loud and directed to be just the wind. Before they could discuss it, they saw a man running toward them from the shore. He was about 40 years old, with a camera around his neck and a backpack on his back. He was frantically waving his arms and shouting something. Chris and Ben stared at the stranger in confusion. His words were unclear because of the distance and the noise of the wind. The friends steered the boat toward the shore to hear better. As they got closer, they could make out individual words. "Danger! Behind you!" The man kept shouting, pointing at something behind the boat. Chris and Ben turned around at the same time. At that moment, there was a loud splash, and something huge emerged from the water. It was an alligator, about 10 feet long. The reptile opened its massive jaws, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Its eyes seemed to glow with a menacing yellow light in the twilight. The alligator let out a loud hiss and moved toward the boat. The friends froze in terror. Chris dropped his fishing rod, and Ben instinctively grabbed the side of the boat. Time seemed to stop as the huge reptile approached them. Suddenly, Ben snapped out of it and yelled, "Row! Row to the shore!" Chris grabbed the oars, and they started rowing desperately, trying to reach the shore before the alligator caught up. But the boat moved too slowly, and the alligator was closing in fast, its powerful tail creating waves that rocked the small boat. A man on the shore shouted and threw rocks to distract the alligator, but it didn't slow down. Just a few yards from the shore, the alligator was right behind them, jaws wide open. In a panic, Chris and Ben jumped out of the boat and swam for the shore with all their strength, the sound of the alligator splashing behind them pushing them to swim even faster. Reaching the shallow water, the friends scrambled onto the shore and ran into the forest. The man with the camera joined them, shouting, "Faster! Up a tree!" They saw a large oak tree with low branches and rushed toward it. Ben helped Chris climb up first, then climbed up himself. The stranger followed, barely managing to pull up his legs as the alligator emerged on the shore. The reptile slowly approached the tree, snapping its jaws menacingly. The friends, breathing heavily, watched it from several feet above. Now that the immediate danger had passed, they could see the animal more clearly. Ben was the first to notice something strange. "Look, there's something on its back leg." Sure enough, a metal object resembling a trap was visible on the alligator's right hind leg. The stranger, who introduced himself as John, pulled out his camera and began photographing the alligator. "I'm a wildlife photographer," John explained. "I spotted this predator earlier and was trying to take some pictures when I saw you in the boat." John showed them the photos on his camera screen. One of the shots clearly showed a trap biting into the alligator's leg. "Poor animal," Ben sighed. "It's probably gone crazy from the pain." Chris nodded. "That explains why it was so aggressive. It wasn't attacking us but trying to ask for help." This thought made them see the situation in a new light. Suddenly, they heard the sound of an approaching vehicle. It was a park ranger in a jeep. John admitted that he had called for help before running to warn them. The ranger quickly assessed the situation and called for backup. Soon, a team of wildlife specialists arrived. They carefully sedated the alligator with a tranquilizer and began to free its leg from the trap. After examining the wound, a veterinarian said the alligator should make a full recovery. "It's lucky you noticed it," he told John. "A little longer, and it could have lost its leg." The ranger was deeply concerned by the discovery of the trap in the reserve. "This is definitely the work of poachers," he said grimly. "We need to find them before they hurt other animals." He asked Chris, Ben, and John to help with the investigation. The friends, feeling responsible for what had happened, agreed without hesitation. John offered to use his photography skills to document evidence. The next morning, the group returned with the police and thoroughly searched the area, uncovering several hidden traps and devices. John took detailed photos, marking the exact locations, while Chris and Ben helped collect evidence, carefully handling the traps. The investigation continued for several days, with the police setting up hidden cameras and organizing a stakeout. Chris, Ben, and John volunteered to assist, spending long hours in hiding. On the third day, their patience was rewarded when they spotted three men moving cautiously through the forest late at night. The poachers were well equipped. They had night vision goggles, special traps, and even tranquilizers for large animals. They were clearly professionals at their illegal trade. The police waited until the criminals began checking their traps and then launched the operation to arrest them. Chris, Ben, and John watched with bated breath as events unfolded. A chase ensued. The poachers, spotting the police, bolted deeper into the forest. They knew the area well and skillfully used that advantage, weaving between trees and jumping over fallen logs. The officers pursued them, lighting their way with flashlights and shouting commands to stop. The forest was filled with the sounds of the chase, the crunch of branches, heavy breathing, and the barking of police dogs. Chris, Ben, and John, despite being told to stay hidden, couldn't resist the urge to see what was happening. They carefully moved toward the action, trying not to get in the police's way, but eager to see how things would unfold. Suddenly, they heard splashing water. One of the poachers was trying to escape by swimming across a small lake. It turned out to be a big mistake. The alligator they had rescued a few days earlier appeared in the water, fully recovered and back in its natural habitat. The poacher, seeing the alligator, panicked and tried to swim back to shore, but it was too late. The alligator quickly swam toward him, its powerful tail slicing through the water. When the police arrived at the shore, they faced a tough situation. They needed to save the poacher from the alligator without putting themselves or the animal in danger. Thankfully, one officer was a wildlife expert. He quickly used a special device that made loud sounds, scaring the alligator away. With the alligator retreating, two officers jumped into the water and pulled the terrified poacher to safety. He was immediately arrested, shaking from fear and cold. The other two poachers were caught within half an hour. All three were taken to the police station for questioning. A search of their homes revealed many illegal items, including stuffed rare birds, animal skins from endangered species, and hunting tools. The poachers were sentenced to long prison terms and heavy fines. The story of Chris, Ben, and John got a lot of attention in the media, raising awareness about poaching. Their experience inspired many people to get involved in protecting wildlife.